If you want to step out, number one, this is where he's going to attack you. Look at what Sanballat and Tobiah say in Nehemiah 4. Sanballat was very angry when he learned that we were rebuilding the wall. He flew into a rage and mocked the Jews, saying in front of his friends and the Sumerian army officers, "What does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they're doing? Do they think they can build the wall in a single day by just offering a few sacrifices? Do they actually think they can make something of stones from a rubbish heap? And charred stones at that." Tobiah the Ammonite, who was standing beside him, remarked, "That stone wall would collapse if even a fox walked along the top of it." That's a place many of us are going to face. You know that. You step out and you really take to heart what we said, social disgrace. People will look at you funny, you think. People will talk about you funny. We won't be invited to social functions. And it's going to kill our social life. We'll miss out on funny movies. We'll miss out on popular songs. We'll be sheltered and we won't belong. And we really believe that we will stand alone and stand out. Those are the two things that as a teenager I know I wouldn't want, and I know you fear. I'm going to stand alone and I'm going to stand out. And there's nothing more terrifying than that. What is more, look at the social disgrace that Sanballat throws at the Jews. He brought his squad with him. The first time it was just Sanballat. And he's like, "Losers." This time, he brings the Sumerian officers, he brings his friend, and he brings Tobiah. And he stands by, and he mocks them, and he calls them names, and he mimics them in their feeble attempts to build something from stones. And this is what he honestly says, right? He says, "Do they actually think they can make something of stones from a rubbish heap?" Here's what it says in the ESV. I love this. Will they revive the stones? Will they revive the stones? You can think these people right in our lives that are asking these same questions because of the wreckage of our own past. You know the wreckage that's in your past. Look at the attempts you've already made. Look at it. Look at the failed attempts for yourself to free yourself from gossip, to free yourself from depression and anxiety. Look at the failed attempts to free yourself from vanity. Look at the failed attempts to free yourself from language and its usage, to free yourself from the body image pressure on you. You failed. You can't revive these stones. You are dead. You are lifeless, and the hill of wreckage you sit upon will always be lifeless and dead. And you need to accept it and live in this reality. And we have the power to tell you that is true. You can't revive these stones. What are you doing? And amidst this, Nehemiah, he prays. He sits and he prays, and he goes to the king. And you know what our king has to say to us in response to when people say, "You think you're going to revive stones? You think your life can actually have meaning and living? Look at the wreckage. Look at what Jesus says. He says, 'I am the living one. I died, but look, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys to death and the grave.'" See, Nehemiah knew that. And so all this movement of you think you can resurrect something, you think you can actually do something, look at your past. Nehemiah goes, "I have, and it's redeemed, and it's alive, and it's covered by the blood of Jesus. He holds the keys. He gets to decide who lives and who dies. And he sent me on this mission. And so I don't have to listen to you. Yes, I have fallen, but I have fallen and experienced grace. I have experienced being lifted from fear and failure. I have experienced Him holding me, taking me back to safety. Yes, these stones can live. Because Jesus holds the keys. Response number one is they're going to try to shame you socially. They're going to try to drag you down socially. They're going to try to destroy you socially. They're going to try to point to your past and tell you how horrible you are. That's a great tool. And I know it's one that you fall prey to. I fall prey to. This one's a little bit more difficult. The second one is physical harm. He leans in and he starts threatening the people that he's going to attack. He's going to destroy. He's going to maim. He's going to kill these people. And they buckle under this. And they're afraid of the violence that's going to come their way. I want you to know something. In total, a survey found that more than 7,100 Christians were killed in 2015. Can you even just for a moment fathom that number of lives? 7,100 Christians were killed in 2015. Up 3,000 from 2014. Up 3,000. According to the group's analysis of media reports and other public information, as well as external experts, this open doors found this persecution range. Here's where it ranged from imprisonment, torture, beheadings, and rape, to the loss of home and assets, the loss of a job, or even rejection from a community. 7,100 people were either imprisoned for their faith, tortured, beheaded, or raped for their faith. They lost their home and everything they had for their faith. They were fired from their job and now will lose everything because of their faith. And they were rejected from their community. Their family said, "Get out of here. You are no longer welcome in my home." For their faith. I want to read this story to you. That's where we'll end, because I'm going to try to get this home, because I think this tool that Satan uses of physical harm is really hard for us to give. I am so blessed. I get to talk to you guys. I don't have to we don't have to meet in an underground space. We get to declare these truths openly and publicly right now. Nigerian Christians largely don't fight back against Boko Haram. For one, they simply don't have the proper weapons, and most of the attacks happen by surprise at night. This isn't a war against the church. It's a massacre. In response, Christians can only remain firm in their faith. After all, when under a surprise attack in the middle of the night, their faith is all they have. If you go to Nigerians and ask, "Will you die for Christ?" they would say, "No," says Reverend Isaac, a director for Voice of the Martyrs in Nigeria. But look how many Nigerians have died for Christ. When the time comes, the courage comes. For thousands of Christians, that time comes all too soon. While women like Patrick are often abducted by Boko Haram, men, if they're not killed, have a hand or a foot cut off from opposite sides of their body, a Quranic punishment for those who wage war against Islam. In a video released in 2013, Boko Haram leader, I can't say his name, said, "We will kill because Allah says we should decapitate, we should amputate limbs, we should mutilate." 35-year-old Micah Magaji survived such an attack while walking through his village with his wife, Dorcas, on the morning of December 18, 2014. A group of Boko Haram soldiers surrounded them, demanding they convert to Islam. The couple could deny Christ and live, or affirm their faith and die. "We were born into a Christian family," Magajabi told the attackers. "We are still Christians today. There is no way we are going to turn around from our past." The men threatened to cut off his hand, kill him if he didn't renounce his faith. "Only God can take my life," he responded. "It is from God, so you cannot take my life." The attackers then attempted to intimidate Dorcas, but she remained unfazed. "I'm married to a Christian," she told them. Wherever my husband goes, that is where I'll go." Ruth? "I'm not changing from this faith to any other." Her response angered the men, and they shot her to death. while another went at him with a machete, attacking both of his forearms before leaving him for dead. When the elders of the village learned of the attack, they sent people to rescue him. It is the power of God that has kept me up to this point, he says now. Before the attackers left him to die, they stole his cell phone, a common practice in such attacks. After receiving his initial care at the hospital, Magajabi borrowed a phone to call the attackers who had taken his. I told them, "You people thought you have killed me, but my God has saved me," he says. Surprisingly, he adds, the attacker who answered apologized. He goes, "I'm a Christian," I told him. "I don't bear grudges. I don't keep records of wrongs. I have already forgiven you." At the time of the attack, Magajabi and Dorcas had been married for more than 20 years. And he simply misses her dearly. Nehemiah's response to the people who are under attack and under the threat of their lives is quite simple. He says this to them as they're being told that they're going to be losing their lives, losing their homes. He says this: "Don't be afraid of the enemy." Students who are followers of Jesus, don't be afraid of the enemy. Then he says, "Remember the Lord, who is great and glorious." Remember the Lord, who is great and glorious. And I happen to think he's remembering this story where we will end tonight. Don't be afraid of the enemy. Don't be afraid of social humiliation. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear, don't let the enemy pull you under that sinking tide in the ocean. Here's what I think he's thinking about when he says, "Don't be afraid, but remember your great and glorious God." Here, this is from Exodus 14. Chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. Here's what the people said. "Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness.'" Here's that conjunction. This is even better conjunction. But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." Don't be afraid of the enemy. See, Nehemiah can say that because he goes, "I spent time with God for 4 months, and the most powerful man on the planet let me go build this city. I have seen him. I have experienced his goodness and his power. You need to remember that." And let me take you back to Exodus, when everyone was freaking out on the Red Sea, going like, "How are we going to get through this? Just let us get back to slavery. Just let us go back to sin. Just let us go back here. Come on, leave us alone." And God goes, "You stay calm, because I am fighting for you." You see, the reality, students, is that when we sink under fear and failure, 3 words: "Lord, save me." Stay calm. The Lord will fight for you. It's not your power, students. I love this man's response as he's sitting here and he's saying, like, "You can't take my life. It's God's." Don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the great and glorious has fought for you and has claimed victory for you. I'm going to read this last quote and you guys just listen to this tonight. You go out with this in your mind tonight. Lift up your hands in response to God's reaching down to you. Lift your hands in praise above the darkness, above death and grave, above loss, above a strained relationship, above depression or turmoil or stress or whatever has come against you. Lift them up to believe again and to declare that although God has led you into this valley, His plan is not to leave you in this place, but to give you a comeback and lead you all the way through. Lift your hands. And what you will find is what Peter found. God, who is already reaching down to you, lift you up. He will fight for you. Let's pray. Father, we come before you tonight. We admit our fear. We admit our inability. We admit our weakness. We want to taste your grace, God. And you say it's at our weakest that it's the most real. And so many of us never want to dwell in that space. Would you give us the courage to humble ourselves? Father, we know that the enemy is going to attack us. We know we are going to come up against the threat to look at our past, to be reminded of how burnt it is and how ugly it is and how horrible and lifeless it is. But God, we know you hold those keys, and so we can trust you. Would you allow these students to trust you this week? That amidst all of the wreckage of their past, Father, that you are weaving a story that is so amazing and so beautiful, all for your glory. God, against the pressure of their friends or of their community, they'll maybe be laughed at if they take a step out. Father, would we learn from Nehemiah that, God, you are the king, you are the authority. And Father, would you give us this courage, this unnatural courage, in this place of physical harm, God, that we would so remember that it's you who are fighting for us, that you are for us and you are not against us. And Father, even if you don't lead us through and it causes us to lose our life, Father, would we realize that we are swallowed up into victory? And we will see you face to face. Father, build in us such a courage because of the work of Jesus that we can stay calm, that we don't have to fear the enemy. Because you're making a way. God, we love you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Guys, just again, thank you so much for being here. Seriously. You guys are amazing. You guys have a great week. Would you